Well, that was a great introduction, but she neglected to talk about my history with organized crime, unfortunately. Oh, by the way, you are all required to laugh at every single one of my jokes tonight. As she said, I'm Rob Garfield. I currently work at the Queens College Center for New Media Teaching and Learning. Tonight I want to share with you and play with you a game that arose out of a partnership with the Columbia Center for New Media Teaching and Learning, where I worked for about 5 years, and some instructors from the Earth Institute at Columbia who were teaching a foundational undergraduate course in global sustainable development. Before that, however, I want to acknowledge two things that have nothing to do with this talk. One is it's 12-12-12, which doesn't mean the world ends. We have 9 days. But maybe something worse, there's a concert going on at Madison Square Garden. Tonight, the Rolling Stones are playing. The Who is playing. And we're competing tonight with them. And I want to thank you all for choosing us. I think you made the right choice. Second thing is, to help us play the game, this is a two-person effort to actually present to you tonight. Up in the booth, we have an awesome colleague of mine whose name is Rachel Stern-Lockerman, and she's actually going to be... Yeah, you guys are anticipating me. We must have CTL folks back there. I'm blinded by the light. Yeah, right on. She's doing this on extremely short notice and is really doing us a huge favor. We wrote out a script for her today, and she's going to be following it tonight. So can I get everybody to give her a round of applause? And I think I just want to say, take that, Bon Jovi. So in early 2007, one of the Earth Institute instructors that I alluded to before, his name is Gordon, dropped by our office looking to discuss how they could improve their course in a few different ways, the most salient of which he described roughly as follows. And you can imagine this being sort of the Oliver Stone version of what he told me. In our course, we pack in a lot of content. Our students are expected to learn the fundamentals of many different disciplines, including agronomy, nutrition, economics, epidemiology, public health, development management, et cetera, et cetera. And they come out of the course knowing a little bit about everything, but they never really synthesize all these things. The disjuncture is that we teach this course this way, at the same time as vehemently preaching to the students that solving development problems in the real world requires an approach that integrates the knowledge in these disciplines and the practices that such knowledge implies. Rob, he said, this is the Oliver Stone moment, we need a tool that helps us teach students to solve real-world problems in an environment where all of the human and natural systems that we describe in our course operate in concert. Can you see Kevin Costner saying that? So there's a lot of yada, yada, yada here, but what we ended up doing was, with a few other educators who are familiar with the course and a group of incredible colleagues from the Center for New Media Teaching and Learning, we developed a pedagogical tool, an intervention into the course, if you will, in the form of a game that recreates the complex world as taught in the class so that students can actually practice being social scientists and development practitioners, which the instructors had been, in a sense, training them to be. Gordon, the original instructor, and this is as far as I'm going to go in explaining my talk title, later came to call this intervention the course's integrated problem set. So Rachel has just clicked beginning, the game beginning. So the game is called the Millennium Village Simulation. Its closest relative in the gaming world is probably SimCity, although it has a very different scale and approach to SimCity. But if you're familiar with that game, you won't be too lost here. The game places students in the role of a two-person family in a non-specific African village. As a player, you have to decide how to allocate your time, money, and assets in order to survive for 50 years and escape a state of extreme degenerative poverty. In doing so, you'll need to learn how to optimize and defend yourselves against random and not so random shocks, such as droughts and epidemics, and pull yourselves and your village out of the poverty trap where the game initially places you. Don't worry about it too much. This is not how the game actually looks, but I'll try to fill in the images with words. So that adds about 2,000 words. For this next section, I really need you guys to pay attention to me because this is an interactive portion, and I'm going to be calling on maybe some of you, anybody that I can see, so you guys in the front row over here near me are especially vulnerable. I'm going to give you some hints about how to play the game. At the beginning of the game, in order to survive, you need sufficient amounts of three main resources. These resources are food, energy, and water. For the purposes of the demo, it's imagined that the two people in your family can each work about 12 hours a day, which gives you 24 person hours to aggregate and allocate over the following 5 activities. These activities are farming, and farming, if you scroll down just slightly, Rachel, you can see when you farm, you can choose between a subsistence crop and a cash crop. Fishing, which nets you raw food. Fuel wood collection, which is, hint, hint, the only way to get energy at the beginning of the game. And water collection, where it's imagined that you're going to need to travel a significant amount of distance to find fresh water. So you're going to need to put some time into that. And small business, which is an abstraction of maybe all the odd jobs one might do around a village, like repairing shoes and things like that. But here's another big hint. In order to actually make any money doing that, you're going to need to invest in it. So how much time out of these 24 hours should we put into farming? Come on, yell it out. 24 is the wrong answer. 8 hours. Okay, Rachel put in 8. How about for fishing? 3. Okay. How about fuel wood collection? 10. How about water collection? Well, I heard over here water takes longer. So how about we put let's swap fuel and water. Swap farming and water. Let's swap fuel and water. Okay. 4 and 10. All right, the next thing that's going to happen, now that we've made our decisions, Rachel's going to click on the end turn button in a second, and what that's going to do is it's going to push time forward 6 months, and a whole slew of interlocking equations and algorithms are going to calculate the results of our decisions and let us know what happened to us. It's important to note that you can never step into the same narrative twice because all these equations involve lots of stochastic or randomized elements. So go ahead and click that end turn button. What happened? Oh my gosh, we did so well. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Okay, so what happens is you get this end of turn report after you made your decisions. It has some announcements on the left to give you a general idea of how you did. You made subsistence. There's nothing really wrong here. In the center column, you'll get some quantitative data that you can analyze and actually use to hone your decisions at a later date. I'm looking here and I'm seeing how much water did we get? Quite a bit. How much did we use? About half. So in order to optimize, we might want to drop that 10 hours into water down a bit. Fuel wood collection, we got about 41 tons and we used about 9 of it. So we could probably drop that down. But if you look down in the family finances there, some of that wood gets sold and you get some money. But it looks like the excess food sells for more than the excess wood. I'm helping out with the analysis here. Okay, Rachel, so why don't you clear out of there and then go in and let's make some adjustments to the hours. So let's drop that water collection down to, say, 6. And let's drop that fuel wood collection down to, say, 2 or 3. And let's pump the rest into farming. And then click the End-Turn button again. We're still doing well, except for one of our people has a disease now. So now what are you going to do? So what we've just done in a very simple way is we've engaged in the process that's called reflective practice. And that's basically making assumptions about a situation, testing those assumptions, analyzing the results of our tests, and then honing our assumptions for further play. This is what scientists do, and this is what we're teaching our students to do with this. While that might seem like a simple example, believe me, it doesn't stay simple. For example, how do you deal with illness? We just got an illness, and believe me, once we start moving forward, that's going to take its toll. The forests can deplete if we collect a lot of wood. If we become fisher people, we can deplete our lakes. Massive epidemics can occur, years of drought. How do you save or borrow to buy improvements for your family? Rachel, can you pop open that tab? How do you work within the village to manage your natural resources and assets? Setting aside funds for surviving droughts or improving the village? And how do you put yourself and your village in a position to be truly helped if by chance you find yourself in the path of external donation? So although students in the course are encouraged to play this game as much and as many times as they want, there are 3 directed and graded assignments that occur throughout the semester. In the assignments, students are given an essay question which requires that they perform a series of investigations in the simulation. Importantly, they are never graded on their performance in the sim, but rather on their ability to reflect on their experience within it. Some examples of assignments that might be given are what's it like to operate as a fishing family versus a subsistence farming family versus a cash farming family. They might be asked to write out the equation that describes the growth and depletion of the forest and the lake. What are the economic and cultural implications of planning a family? Under what conditions is it safe to plan a family? What village improvements are necessary for economic growth? And finally, even more overarching questions like, how does this model relate to real life, what you're experiencing in the simulation? What's missing? For example, glaringly missing from here is the model of HIV and urban migration. How would those operate if we were to add them to this? If students can answer that question, then they're really thinking in terms of systems. Is it ethically appropriate to impose fishing and fuel wood quotas for your village? Talk about that in terms of the simulation, and talk about it in terms of, say, a village that we study in this class. Okay, Rachel, can you switch over to the history tab? So we just played one turn here, but to answer the questions that I just referred to, students have recourse to every single turn that they've ever played of any game that they've ever played, and they can download the data from each one of their games as a CSV file and parse it in any CSV reader like Microsoft Excel and use that for analysis. They can also, and now you can show the graphing tool, they also have a built-in graphing tool which allows them to plot variables against time and in scale, and plot variables in the simulation against each other to investigate correlations between them. After we got to this point, I stopped really kind of thinking about this as the integrated problem set, but more as a sort of integrated solution arena. The last thing I want to mention is that the MV-Sim gives instructors an extraordinary amount of power to rework how the sim operates. Using this configuration file, which is endless, it scrolls forever, you can change the starting conditions and behaviors of almost anything in the sim. You can do things like make droughts occur 80% of the time, or never. Double the amount of fish in the lake. Start every student with a village clinic to protect against illness. block any outside aid or make any outside aid more likely. You can even change the nomenclature and behavior of farming such that you're growing peanuts or rice. And you can imagine even transforming this village into maybe a village in rural Georgia or Southeast Asia. Any turn of any game that you or your students have played can also be saved as a launch point or a game start for the rest of the class. This can be great for creating interesting scenarios for developing student problem-solving skills. You can even assign different configurations to different sections of your class to spur discussion, or if you want to target a problem student in your class and punish them severely. So thank you all very much for having me.